Hello, everyone, and welcome to the September 2015 HHQI Cardiovascular Learning Action Network, or what we call the Cardio LAN meeting. We'd like to thank all of you for taking the time out of your day, whether you're attending the live session or whether you are watching and listening to this through the archived recordings. We hope that you will find the information not only informative, but also applicable to your care setting. This is a sharing meeting, and especially for those of you that this may be your first time of being on the call, we would just like to encourage you to jump in, share comments, questions, to kind of keep things informal because it is for sharing purposes. Now, we know there's been some confusion in the past as to how to communicate during these sessions, so we'll just go through this. And if you are listening through your computer speakers, you can use the Q&A box on the right-hand side of your screen. You'll see at the top right corner, there's a little box that says Q&A, it's in blue, and you can click that and it will bring up the Q&A part, and you can go ahead and type your question in, and we'll get to as many questions as we possibly can. Now, if you are listening to the webinar through a phone, right now all the lines are muted just so that we don't have the background noise, but be warned, we're going to be unmuting the lines very shortly for questions. So if you haven't done so already, maybe just take a minute and go ahead and mute your own line so that we don't accidentally eavesdrop on your conversations once the lines are unmuted. So with us today, we are very pleased to have our guest speaker, who is Brenda Smith, the administrator of Southland Home Health out of Phoenix, Arizona. Now, she has graciously agreed to share not only her successes in the agency's cardiovascular quality improvement program that her agency has integrated, but she's also going to share lessons learned. Now, I'll introduce Brenda a little later on the call in a more formal fashion. As with all the Cardio LAN meetings, we have the HHQI team members on the line today to give updates as well as answer any questions that you may have. And like I said before, we're going to get to as many questions as we possibly can on today's call. So with us from HHQI today, we have the HHQI Campaign Director, Mr. Shannon Wright. We also have Health Data Analyst, Stacy Deslick, and we have the 3 RM Project Coordinators, Misty Kevich, Crystal Welch, and for those of you I haven't met, my name is Cindy Sun. So let's go ahead and get this started and toss it over to Crystal for HHQI Campaign Update. Crystal?
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and I'll just be brief and go ahead and go over some campaign updates. I'll start off by announcing that the current participation of the HHQI campaign currently stands at 19, oh my goodness, I need to rewind. Let's start over again. 13,951 participants, and we have an even 5,400 agencies. So it's great to see that number increase, and at this rate, hopefully in the next month we will hit that 14,000 mark for participants. And we are also pleased to honor our September Agency of the Month, which is Home Health of Montana in Missoula, Montana. And they were randomly selected among our home health agencies that were in the top percentile of performance in acute care hospitalization or oral medication management. So we're very pleased to be honoring them throughout the month of September, both on our campaign website, and they were also featured in the HHQI Inside Edition e-newsletter this month, and that's sent out to about 18,000 contacts we have. As for campaign resources, all the kiddos have gone back to school, but this is just a little reminder for the nurses on the call that you can also go back to school, and just to let you know that we have 7 free courses available in our HHQI University, all of which are free nursing CEs from the American Nurses Credentialing Centers. So many states are having their renewals up for end of October, 1st of November. So just keep in mind there's a lot of available CE courses for you, and they go over anywhere from cardiovascular health to blood pressure control, smoking cessation, tobacco, more on the fundamentals of medication management, blood pressure medications. So check it out if you haven't. And again, those are all free and pretty easy to access those as well. And as far as the other HHQI resources, we wanted to let you know earlier in 2015, you are probably familiar, hopefully you are familiar with our video B-tips, but we did create a series of professionally produced videos just designed to educate patients as well as clinicians on a variety of cardiovascular health topics. And we have 10 of those. They are just packed with information just to help explain specific cardiovascular health issues and best practices for improvement. We kept them around the 5 to 8 minute mark, and those are, again, very helpful. It's a good library to have, not only with just to call upon for your patients and your clinicians, but we've had them on our website. They are now available on YouTube. So if you can, just take the time to browse HHQI's YouTube playlist and pick out your favorites, use them, reuse them, and they're yours to have and use. So we're excited to have those on a YouTube playlist now. And as far as the wanted just to kind of mention, we have switched things up a little bit, and if you can just remember third Thursdays. This is something that we're trying to be top of mind awareness to think about HHQI and something always going to occur on the third Thursday of every month. And in order to make the most of the limited time of our HHQI participants, we are going to have 3 online networking events: the live chat, the CardioLand, which we're listening to right now with the webinar, and the underserved population webinars. These will each be held quarterly, rotating to always occur from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern on the third Thursdays of the month. So we're used to having these CardioLand meetings monthly. They are now going to be quarterly. So in 2015, we won't be meeting again till December, and then we will also be in 2016, it will be a March, June, September, and December rotation for the CardioLand. So, of course, questions, anything else can always be directed to the HHQI website or individually with one of the staff. Cindy, some would be available, but just kind of wanted to make that announcement. I know that also went out on the meeting announcement. I just wanted to make sure everybody read that and saw that. And if anyone on the call would happen to be attending the NAC conference, the National Association of Home Care and Hospice, the annual meeting will be in Nashville, and that will be October. We're going to be presenting on October 30th, and so Cindy Sun, Misty Kevich, and myself will be there. So if you happen to be by, please look us up, and just kind of wanted to let you know about that. I did mention a little bit already about HHQI University, but kind of neglected to tell you where that you can find that. Just under our website, homehealthquality.org, go under the Education tab, look at best practices, and you will be able to find all those great tools for clinicians just to reinforce that patient education. So if you have any time to check that out. But coming October 1st, you will see a new education, Pave Your Path series, and it will be posted to HHQI University. And some of you on the call, you may remember this series from 2013 with the goal of providing home health clinicians some practical applications. It's using the model for improvement. That's just an easy framework to improve quality using, and then we used our free HHQI campaign resources. So the series is 4 parts. We'll look at using that formal QI or QAPI process and rapid cycle testing, which we also know as the Plan, Do, Study, Act, or the PDSA cycles. And those who participate will understand just how to implement a systematic approach to redesigning and improving their health systems that can just be used. And this is a very well-tested program for improvement methods. And there's also going to be a workbook and online activities that go along with this series. registries, just so you can apply that knowledge from the educational webinar that we were able to produce, and we produced that with our partners, the Institutes for Healthcare Improvement, or IHI. So just a quick reminder, these courses will have 2 nursing CEs for a total of 8 CEs for the entire program, and these are all approved through the Alabama State Nurses Association. So we're pretty excited about that. So this is just going to be really good for new people in quality improvement. You know, if you just want to brush up on your skills, or if there's organizations, if you're really wanting to get your QAPI plans developed, you know, just as we wait on the final COP ruling from CMS, this would be a perfect time for you. So enough about that, and let me just remind folks also on the call quickly to save the date for October 15th. That's going to be our next UP, or our underserved population networking event, and that will be from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern. That's kind of that third Thursday I mentioned earlier, but our next event will be October 15th. And the title of this event is going to be Coordinating Veterans Home Health Care. So we're just going to be able to explore all the available resources and services to keep veterans at home, and the National Veterans Coordinating Center will be featured as the presenter. So just keep a lookout for that. Registration, I do believe registration is going to be coming soon, if it isn't already. So I just wanted to make mention of that to make sure that you register for the October 15th UP networking event from 2 to 3 Eastern time. So the only other thing I would just like to put a little plug in for, Cindy, if I can, we are going to be highlighting National Home Care Aid Week in November, and since we're not going to be able to talk to the CardioLand folks, if you have someone, we want to just let you all know, those on the call, to think about a medical assistant, or maybe it's you on the call, or maybe someone you might want to turn in to us, but we're interested in having someone be a guest blogger for November, and just give us a little glimpse of what it is to be a medical home care aide, and just a day in the life of a home care aide. And this blog is about a page or less. It's about 1,200 words. So if you know someone, please contact us at HHQI, or let Cindy know so that we can feature that. We think that would be a nice touch for National Home Care Aid Week. So with that, I am going to toss it, Cindy, I'm going to toss it back over to Stacy so she can get us started. Thank you all.
Well, thanks, Crystal, and hello, everybody. I'm glad that you're all here. It's nice to talk to everybody. So I have some exciting news about the registry. This month, we met a pretty significant milestone. We now have a full 12 months of data in the registry. So this means that if your agency has been abstracting and submitting data from the very beginning, or if you joined later and have gone back and submitted data from the beginning, you will now have a full year's worth of data on your reports. So having a full year's worth of data will really allow you to track your agency's performance. If, for example, you implemented some best practice intervention or policy change back in, say, August of 2014, you will now be able to track when that implementation began to impact your performance. You'll also be able to gauge how much change has been made by observing the rates over time. So bear in mind that there is a learning curve, as with all registries like this, and so those first few months of data, they might be a little bit weird looking to you, for lack of a better word. They might just not match up with the rest of your data, and that's fine. There is this learning curve involved. You didn't mess up, you didn't do anything wrong, just continue to push forward and look at your year as a whole, and you will be able to see some trends in your data. So the different ways that you can use these data reports they're just great. You can use them to track performance, like I just mentioned, or you can use them, to discuss your agency's performance with stakeholders as part of your outreach to your community and patients and other healthcare providers. There really are so many possibilities, and recently I've learned that agencies use these reports in different ways other than just tracking performance. So that's really awesome that people have been able to be creative in looking at their performance, but also using the reports in other ways.
So now for some information about the registry itself. The tobacco measure continues to be the most abstracted measure in that it has the most episodes of care abstracted for tobacco. However, I was looking at the data the other day, and more agencies are actually selecting to abstract the blood pressure measure than any other measure. So tobacco has more episodes due to the inclusion criteria for the different measures. The blood pressure measure excludes everybody without, specific diagnoses and that sort of thing. So it was interesting to see, this one measure isn't being selected so much, but sure has a lot of episodes, and this other one is really being selected a lot and has a little bit less. So just some different ways to look at the data, and interesting for those people who are interested in that kind of stuff. So typically at this point in the call, I recognize the first agency to close the most recent month of data. However, since we've moved to this quarterly form, every 3-month format for this call, recognitions are going to change somewhat. Those changes are still sort of in the works, so they will be coming soon, and be on the lookout. We definitely do like to recognize agencies for outstanding performance, and we try hard to kind of give shout outs to those people who are really engaged and aggressive in a good way when it comes to the cardio land. So finally, I have, of course, my challenge to you. If you're new to this call, every call I give a challenge to the agencies. And it's just kind of a goal, if you're wondering what sort of goal you could set in relation to the HHCDR, I'll throw one out there for you, and if you like it, go ahead and take it, and if you don't, then that's fine too. So my challenge is, if you haven't submitted the full 12 months of data that is available, go ahead and submit. And I do want to point out that it doesn't matter when you've joined or when you've begun submitting data. You can go back all the way to July of 2014. Here it is, September of 2015, but that data is still sitting there. There's no cutoff time that it won't become available. So feel free to go all the way back. It's your data, and feel free to abstract it. If you have submitted 12 months of data and implemented some sort of change during that time, my challenge is to take a look at your report and see if you can pinpoint when that change began to impact your data. If you've only recently implemented a change, give it some time. It will take several months before you see something. And if the data isn't changing the way you'd like it to change, review what's going on. Maybe do like a PDSA, that Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle, and see if you can figure out maybe you just need to tweak things just a little bit, or educate differently, or make sure that your nurses and providers understand the whole process and everybody is engaged. Feel free to reach out to us here at HHQI about different ways that you can do this. We're here to help, and Misty Kevich and Cindy Sun and Crystal would be just thrilled to be able to work with you in making improvements. So with that being said, before I go, I do want to let you know, if you have any questions for me, I have to drop off the call, unfortunately, early today. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. Cindy Sun will be able to answer most anything that I could. And if she can't, we can email back and forth, and we'll get your questions answered. So with that, I'm going to pass it back over to you, Cindy.
Thanks, but I think that was a little bit of a joke there, saying that I could answer anything you could. But guys, feel free to submit your questions, even if they are to Stacy and she's off the line. We'll be glad to get the answers for you and get them back to you with no problem at all. And I gotta just take a second and say kudos to all of you out there doing the abstracting. It is so exciting to hear that you are selecting tobacco and blood pressure as your primary measures, because those are the measures that really impact those impact all body systems. We know what tobacco does on all body systems. We know what blood pressure does. It's not just cardiovascular. So those are really the two most important measures all the way through. Aspirin is probably the easiest to abstract based upon the way that the home health charts are set up. And cholesterol, I don't mean to take away from it. It is important, but that is primarily focusing on those with cardiovascular disorders. So good job, you guys, for going blood pressure and tobacco. Love hearing that. Even if your data may look weird, which I love hearing a data analyst talking about data and using the adjective weird in the same sentence. So yay, good day all the way around. So I told you earlier that it would be my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker today, and I'm going to take this opportunity to tell you about Brenda. She grew up in a small town in Indiana, and as soon as she graduated from high school, she took the plunge and she joined the Army in search of better opportunities. Brenda served in the U.S. Army for 5 years active and 3 years ready reserve, I apologize. She departed active duty as a decorated sergeant in 2002. Brenda then took on many roles after she departed the Army as a military wife, a mother, and a college student. She took a job in the mortgage industry for about 6 years and then took a break to raise her second child. Just in time, a job with Southland Home Health came along and offered her a great opportunity. Now, with no background, she flourished in the home health industry, making great strides, becoming passionate and knowledgeable, and to successfully grow the company and help the community. If you've not had an opportunity to work or meet Brenda in person, I know that we're not in person, we're not in the same room, but I'd like to encourage you to really engage with Brenda. And I'm sorry, I wish you weren't on the phone. We could talk about you, Brenda, behind your back, but she is just so giving and so easy to share information, and she really just adds a lot to the home health industry. So it's with great pleasure I turn this over to Brenda. Thank you, Brenda.
Awesome. Thanks, Cindy. I really appreciate being here and really getting the opportunity to share some of our ideas and really how being passionate and wanting to help makes a difference. And so I'll go ahead and get started with my presentation. Today, if you want to go ahead and switch the slide, today I'm just going to talk about what tools we've been using and how it helped our agency. There's a lot of ideas. We have meetings every week, and we talk about where are we falling short? Why? What can we do? How can we change this? And one of my biggest strides, I think, is that I really become friends and partners with other home health agencies. I don't see them as my competitors. I don't see them as my enemy. I see them as information and friends and community and patient care. And, I really hope that the relationship goes both ways, but we are always open, because I think if we build those relationships and we're able to talk about tools and what we're doing and how we can help each other, at the end of the day, that's where our patients really get better, and then home health is doing what it's supposed to be doing. So the first tool I'm going to talk about, if you want to flip the slide for me, it's our new admission packet. So we added a couple things to our admission packet so that it was a little bit more understandable, not only to our nurses, but to the patient as well. And one of the things was a new rehospitalization checklist. This checklist I'll show you guys in a couple of slides. But it really helps the nurse understand where the patient's needs are and helps them calculate a better care plan. We also put in an information booklet that has the green, yellow, and red emergency and education tools for heart failure for those patients who struggle with the issues, whether it's diet, they have so many things going on when they're coming onto home health. It's so much information. So this is something that they can look at, and it really just breaks down very simple. If you're experiencing this, or you feel this way, or you feel this way, you're okay. Or if you start to feel this way, maybe not so much, and you should call, and it'll give information for them to call. And at this point, where it gets into the red, you need to call maybe 911 or we need to have, some type of immediate intervention. So that helps with our rehospitalization as well because it helps give the patient direction. And unfortunately, you can't ever give a patient enough information. They're always asking and they re-ask and re-ask, and it's really great for them to have something that they can visually see and check on when they start feeling any symptoms. The other thing that we did with our admission packet was with the rehospitalization checklist, we changed our focus on a scored care in lieu of a diagnosis care. So I'm going to talk about some of these tools more into detail. So if you want to go to the next slide. The rehospitalization tool assessment, it really, like I said, it goes along the lines of helping the staff recognize different interventions from risk factors, chronic conditions, and it assists with frequencies and prompts new assessment timelines. So the great thing about it is the nurse can say, well, this is what's going on with the patient. But the tool will say, okay, check off all of these things, ask these questions, and then we're going to go ahead and say, you know what, this is where you're at now. But I'm going to see you 5 days a week for the next 2 weeks because you are a super high risk. And that's what we need to do. We need to see you every other day. We need to see you, every day for the first 5 days, whatever the case may be for that risk tool that it's going to help choose. That's where we're going to prevent the patient from going to the hospital because, as you all know, a patient that has certain risk factors and chronic conditions, I'm pretty sure they have 911 on speed dial. And we really want them to say, wait a second, let's fix it. And if they don't have someone right there in their face telling them, hey, home health, we're here for you, they don't pick up the phone and call us. They pick up the phone and call the ambulance. And so this tool is going to help the nurse say, you know what, I need to see you every day for the first 5 days, because I need to make sure that they know that you're going to suffer from these symptoms, you're going to see these changes, you're going to struggle with these things, and I want to make sure I'm here for you. Because if we're not, they forget and they call. And so that's really helped us along the way. If you go to the next slide, this is a quick snapshot. I wish I could, give you the full-on format, but this is a snapshot of, asking the patient, how many hospitalizations or ER visits in the past 12 months, history of falls, the chronic conditions, CHF, COPD, and then it's asking risk factors. And as you can see, there's a little symbol chart there, and if you check off these boxes and you look next to what you're checking off, it's going to have a star and a square or a heart, and it's going to say, you know what, you need to consider these things because these certain risk factors will benefit and will help be controlled if you involve therapy or social worker or a home health aide. And if there's, it even goes along the lines of, hey, maybe we need to consider hospice. And if, a nurse isn't ordered, maybe we need to get a nurse out here because this patient is suffering from these risk factors. And then as you can see, it kind of talks about if you're checking so many boxes, there's your risk for rehospitalization. It's giving you an idea of where your patient's at and how sick your patient really is. Because sometimes looking at a patient and having a conversation with them, they don't always give you all the information. They're not going to stand up and go, oh, just so you know, I constantly put my rug down and I trip every day. Or just so you know, I have no family that visits me ever. We typically find that out later on. So we want to prompt those questions and those concerns with our patients so that we get that information right away. So that where, we learned from HHQI that time frame from rehospitalization is quick. It's, you're looking at a week, 2 weeks, and your patient's back in the hospital if we don't give them enough care. But it tells you what to consider. Consider the frequencies, and then it gives you some prompts, if your patient is identified as a high risk, at the SOC visit, there's certain things that you need to do. If, they need the telehealth, which I'll talk about a little bit further down. But it just gives a nurse a really great overview and a visual of my patient needs a lot more assistance than I thought. And this has really helped us tremendously because sometimes, we want to, we don't want them to go out there and do the assessment and miss stuff. And sometimes when they're busy and they go out and they're like, okay, and they go through this stuff and, the OASIS questions, they're great, but sometimes they're overwhelming or they're too much or there's too much information. And this really says, look right here and focus on these things and let's find out what's really going on with your patient. So this tool has been really successful for us and our nurses really like it. If you go to the next slide, this is going to kind of go along the lines with the scored care plan that I talked about and with this risk factor assessment. So we implemented a new focus group for our field staff to basically put together a scored care plan rather than just creating a care plan based off of diagnosis. We think that it's better to see a patient as a whole and as a person and their personal situations because, as you know, without the appropriate support or without the appropriate tools, a patient is not going to get better. And so if we look at everything as along the lines as the same time we're looking at diagnoses, hey, here's our patient. These are the things that they have. But then what's affecting those things in their life? What's going on in their life? Who's helping them? How are they getting this? How well do they take care of themselves? Does anybody else help take care of them? And it really gives our field staff a good or a better idea on the personal needs and not just the care per diagnosis. So if you go to the next slide, please. This is just a little example that my director put together for me. And I think she, really did a great job. But if you think about a patient with a diagnosis of CHF from 2005, with recent hospital visits for exacerbation, the patient was sent home with home health and a scored care plan was done. Because we did the interventions and we looked at more specific goals and interventions not just related to CHF, but all of the patient's care needs, the nursing assessment found that the patient's deficiency was really lack of social support and, the support systems that our patients need. So with implementing nursing and continuing the patient with, disease management, medication management, and all of those great things, they're also implementing a social worker and a home health aide and making sure that the patient is successful in getting along every day and making sure that their needs are met. And the social worker is going to come in and say, okay, you have absolutely no support. And unfortunately, that's not okay. And our goal, home health goal, is to get a patient to their maximum potential or where they were prior to this diagnosis or the fall that they had 2 nights ago, wherever that is. We want to make sure that when we discharge them from home health, we put them in the best case scenario. And that if that means, placing them in an assisted living or maybe reaching out to the family and letting the family know how sick their mother or father really is. And, we've had placement, we've worked with Air Medical to have patients sent to, Texas or Michigan so that they can go live with their family out there. And, the families don't know how sick they are. The doctor doesn't pick up the phone and say, hey, your mom is really ill. They don't say that. They expect the patient to go home and say it, and the patient doesn't. So, with this scored care plan, we are really checking on all of the patient's needs and not just basing on diagnoses as well. So it's worked really well for us also. And I will have to say our patients are extremely happy with our services and the care that our nurses give them. So keeping on with this type of personal care, the next thing that we rolled out for Southland is our Southland Care Connect. So if you want to flip the next slide for me. This is pretty amazing. This is Southland Care Connect. It's hit the ground running. I know that there's a handful of home health companies that have this as well. We implemented this on April 1st of this year, and basically it's a concierge for our patients. They can call and push the button for anything that they need, from groceries to takeout Chinese to calling their daughter because they need to make plans for their daughter's wedding coming up, or to call and say, I need a doctor's appointment, or hey, my medications are running low, can you help me with this? It really does everything. The awesome thing about it is our patients really feel connected with us. We're available to them not only if they dial our number. I will tell you, one of our greatest things is we have a live person answer our phones 24/7. It never ends. If for some reason we don't answer the phone, it's probably because we're on the line and it's an on-call supervisor, but we do rotate and they always get a live person. But with this button, it's the same thing, and I wouldn't give my patients anything else. And the great thing is if they do travel with their children, they can take this device anywhere in the United States. They don't have to do anything. They just carry it with them. If they're wearing it like a chain and they fall, it will detect a fall. Just this past weekend, one of our patients fell. It detected it. The device called the patient, asked if they were okay. They said no, and they dispatched 911. So it's been amazing. The first week that we implemented, you can also set up medication reminders with it, and our nurse said, this patient's really struggling on her medications. I want you to call her every, 3 hours or 6 hours or whatever the time frame was, and make sure she takes her medication. Make sure she checks her blood sugar, whatever that route is. Well, the Southland Care Connect called them, and they didn't respond, and it was odd to them because they had responded to every other. So they tried again, and they got a little nervous. They waited about 15 minutes. They tried to call them again. At that time, they said, you know what, this isn't right, and they dispatched 911, and she actually was on the floor, and we saved her life at that point. So it's an amazing device, and I hate to say it, but to me it's almost like a life alert on steroids. It really is. So it gives us that connect tool that we want to know. We want the patient to know that we're there. We're everywhere for them, and we will do whatever it takes to make sure that they're safe and they stay home and out of the hospital for silly reasons. So that's one of the other items that we implemented to see some really great results with our patients. And, with keeping control of medications and that support. If you pop on to the next slide, we've been working with telehealth for quite some time. I would say the evolution of technology has made telehealth amazing. It is not the same as the device that I just talked about. Please don't confuse them. There are some telehealth companies that have medication reminders built in, but really this is more based for the CHF and the COPD patients, the diabetic patients, and they, our cardiac patients can take so much advantage of this. We're going to monitor their weight. We're going to monitor their blood pressure. We're going to monitor their pulse ox. You can monitor, their O2s. That's everything that you can think of. And that basically goes off and says, it's time. Come do your stuff. And the patient goes over, and it's wheelchair accessible, so they can roll their wheelchair right up to it, connect to the device, take their own blood pressure, take their own pulse ox, do all that good stuff, and this information gets kicked right to our nurse, and they say, hey, your patient has a little low, or your patient's running a little high, and the nurses get to go in and put in all of their parameters, and it's really great because we all know that with our patients in home health, they go home and they're like, I don't feel so good today. Well, my nurse is coming on Thursday. It's Monday. I'll just wait. They don't call their nurse. They don't do anything. They say, I'll just wait. And then the next day they wake up, oh, I feel worse. I feel worse. And then what this does is as soon as they do their vitals on Monday and Tuesday, the nurse is going to, whatever their vitals may be, whether they show low or high on Monday or they finally show low or high on Tuesday, the nurse is going to see that. They're going to call the patient and say, hey, Mary, it's, Jennifer, I'm just calling because you know what, it looks like you're not feeling so well today. How are you feeling? You know what, I'm not feeling great. Oh, well, okay, well, how about I come see you today instead of wait till Thursday? Okay, that sounds great. When Jennifer gets there, she realizes the patient is just a little dehydrated or forgot to take her meds the night before or didn't take her medication, her blood pressure medication the morning of the day before. So that's what we're there for. That's what home health is. We help teach those patients and make sure that they don't forget and make sure they monitor how well they feel or don't feel so that when it's something simple, we catch it right away instead of by the time our nurse drives out on Thursday or calls on Wednesday night to say, hey, Mary, I'll be there at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Well, Mary's not home. Why? Because Mary felt so bad by Wednesday evening, she called 911. So this is really something that we implemented that our patients really enjoy and our nurses love, being able to have that visual of their patients and how well they're doing while they're not there. So this is something that you can say the risk factor that we talked about in the beginning with the starter care packets, that's going to tell us, well, you need to see this patient every day. But then once you get out of there and you get them and more comfortable with being home, this is the other guy that's going to be in there every day for you. So he's going to say, this is how well your patient is today or isn't. And then you can base your, nursing needs off of that. You call the doctor and say, hey, I'm going to have to see the patient a couple extra days this week. She's not doing so well. So that's something we implemented. So on the next slide, if you want to go ahead and go to the next slide, this is basically what sums it up. Our outcomes, our patient understanding. This is all the improvements that we've made. It's really because we want our patients to do well at home. That's where they want to be. They want to be at home. And, the patient understanding is key. It's so important that they understand why we're here, what we do, and what to do if they don't feel well. And if we can't get that across, we're going to battle back and forth, starter care, transfer, resumption, transfer, resumption, and it'll continue to happen. That rehospitalization tool is so beneficial for that. It really gets the patient, sometimes we know a patient is just, if you go out and see a patient on a starter care and then you say, well, we're just doing medication management, you'll be fine, I'll see you next Thursday. No way. No way. This patient just came out of the hospital. This patient lives alone. What if they forget one of their very important medications? Maybe we should check on them a few more times that first week or those first 2 weeks so that we know and we're comfortable saying, okay, after these first 2 weeks, I'm going to start seeing you twice a week instead of 3 times a week, and then I'm going to start seeing you once a week when I'm comfortable that you're doing well. And then here are the other tools to assist me when I'm not here. And if you have any questions, you push this button and I'm going to come see you, basically. So it really helps the patient understand how much we care about them and how important it is not to go back to the hospital if it's not needed. We really, with the assessment tools, it also helps us understand, the DME needs of a patient, the medical needs, the social needs, support, family. And I think I talked about that pretty well and how important it is to look at that overall scored care plan rather than just, hey, you have diabetes, so we're going to check your blood sugar and I recommend you eat this. Well, we have other tools that say, you know what, you're a diabetic. We're going to make sure you get on a good regimen. We're going to track, we're going to monitor, and I'm going to give you some great tools. We have a couple tools if you guys ever want to reach out to me after this. I have some really great tools that are diet plans based on all different conditions, and it's a great information sheets for your patients. But that's really what we want to do for our patient. We want to make sure they're well all around as a whole and not just that diagnosis as well. They have to be well from head to toe, not just, on that ulcer, or we need to make that connection. And then at the end of the day, our patients are loving it. They're loving it. We're getting higher patient satisfaction. We're getting less rehospitalizations. The physicians are calling and saying, thank you so much for making that connection. Thank you so much for taking care of my patient. She talks about you. She loves it. She's doing so well. The families call and say, this is amazing. Thank you so much. I get letters all the time to my staff. They were so thorough. They reached out. They let us know what's going on all the time. I felt like I was in control and not all over the place and didn't know what was going on. And that really means a lot. That really means a lot to me. That means a lot to our nurses. And that's why we're here. So that really sums up my presentation today on the tools that we've used. Are there any questions about anything that I talked about?
Well, thanks, Brenda. There are a few questions that are coming in. And while we're getting to questions, I want to encourage all of the participants today. We will be opening the phone lines in just a minute, but I want to encourage you to use the Q&A box on the right-hand side of your screen so that we can get to the questions as much as possible. And before I forget, for those of you that want to connect with Brenda afterwards, feel free to contact us at HHQI. Our contact information will be on the final slide, and we will reach out and get you in touch with Brenda so that you can talk one-on-one if that's something of interest to you. So, Brenda, a few of the questions that have come in.
Yes.
One is about agency size and the majority of your patient population. I'm interpreting that to be, are you focusing primarily on a specific payment source, or is it a community-based agency?
We are a community-based agency. We do, you know, we take a handful of different insurances. We also work with different programs to provide the needs of communities. And I'm so happy when Stacy, I think she had talked about the VA stuff coming up. So important. There's not a lot that we can do at the VA. They're very hard to follow through with, and so that this is something that we are basing our agency on community, because we're one of the ones that I am actually working with Emily up there at the VA on getting a program through the VA that makes home health easier, because we don't, when we get VA stuff, they don't give us all the information. So yeah, the agency base is all around. We are community and insurance. I think that one of the handful of questions are about the mobile PER system. And the system is free of charge for the first 60 days. And then the great thing about it is you don't have to call and say, hey, do you want to pay for this? No, 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 no. They call and check on the patient like they're with their company, and they say, how are you doing today? And they do a day 2 call, a day 3 call, a day 5 call, a day 15 call, a day 30 call, and a day 45 call. And on that day 45, they say, okay, well, how are you liking this? Your free trial is about to expire. You can keep the device, and depending on what your agency wants to roll out, there's a couple different devices. We rolled out the all wireless one. 98% of the population has wireless. There is a phone line connection one, but I believe we're at $49.99 a month after that 60-day period. And we've had a lot of people say, done, I'm in. And if the patient says, I can't afford it, we usually are able to work something out with the family. And then on top of that, whatever how it works is we pick a base price. And that base price that we establish with the company, there's usually a little gap of a couple bucks. That couple bucks goes into like a kiddie fund. And so if we have a patient who is in desperate need of one, we'll go ahead and say we would like to pay for this unit out of our kiddie fund. And that's how we help the patients who just don't have the ability to pay for that. And so far it's been super successful. I'm very happy with it. But it's not too expensive. I think it's like $10 more than Life Alert a month on average, and it does so much more.
Another question that came in about that while we're on that topic is, which patients, how do you select which patient gets to use this, or is it for all of your patients?
We give it to every single patient. Unless the patient flat out says, no way, I don't want that in my house, get it out, we don't leave it. And you know we have some of those. But we bring, they just changed, they used to ship them here, and then we would have our nurse take them to the patient when she did the start of care. But now they just ship them directly to the patient's homes. I guess some of the inventory home health agencies or other agencies that they work with were hoarding them. So now they go directly to the patient. And what happens is the nurse sends in her assessment, and when that assessment comes in, our coordinator, our patient care coordinator, goes ahead and sends out the device information form. So as long as we know we have a successful open, we go ahead and get that device sent out. And at that time, once that device goes to the patient's house, there's nothing else we do. All the shipping, return labels, and everything, if the patient says, I don't want it, they say, okay, great. At the bottom of the box, there's a label, stick it on the top. laptop, put it out for the postman, he'll pick it up. It's that easy. It doesn't cost them anything until they start their paying for the subscription after the 60-day trial. And there's no contract. They don't have to sign up for a year or anything like that. But it goes to every single one of our patients. And it looks like somebody else asked about charging for telehealth. We do not charge for telehealth. We take that cost on as an agency.
That's good to know. And I wish we were all in the same room together because I'd like to see everybody else's participation to see what they're doing. I'm going to change subjects from this to another question coming in about electronic charting and about the HRA. I think you talked about the Care Connect as being on steroids. I think your HRA, we will all agree, is on steroids as well. And the basic HRA link has been posted under the chat session by Misty Kevich. So you can see that is the basic one. But the question coming in is asking about the one that you're using. Is it available for, could a sample be provided? And if so, we can post that on HHQI. And asking if you have electronic charting, and if so, do you incorporate that HRA, your initial start, into the electronic platform?
We do have electronic charting, and where we've implemented it so that with everything changing as it does, we actually just implemented it as part of our Start of Care paperwork, and we do have a scored care tool that will help us determine if we're going to go ahead and give the patient the telehealth equipment, and or if, you know, obviously every patient gets the little mobile guy. But did I kind of answer that? Is that what you're looking for?
I think so, but if the participant didn't get a clear enough answer, they can come back to us with that. I think that's really great. Now, I have a question in regards to how that came about. The HRA, I think every agency has their own HRA, and they have probably adapted and tweaked it to where it is at a threshold, but it is not scoring patients too high, but it's scoring them well enough to where they can zone in on it. But how did you and your agency come to this conclusion of being able to score for different disciplines?
Well, how we're scoring for different disciplines?
Or how did it come about? How did your agency create this and come to this point?
I think that probably really where it came into play was we have the physicians who say, I want to order therapy. I want PT and OT. And we have our clinical team look at the chart and say, well, actually, this person really needs nursing. And they call the doctor and they say, hey, you know what? We really would love to get nursing out to see this case first. It looks like the patient has, 9 different medications. It looks like you've commented on, possible wounds or an ulcer or whatever the case may be. And the doctor says, oh, no. I just want therapy. I don't want anything else. And you're thinking, okay, what the heck? Well, at that point, the nurses kind of step back and go, well, how do I let the doctor know he's missing something? How do I get this across him that, you know what, this patient has more needs? And so when we do have those cases and the therapist goes out, the therapist does hit on certain things, but they also miss a lot of things. And just like the nurse can hit on some things, but they're not therapists, so their ADL questions might not be right, or, a lot of different things take place. And to be honest, to me, I think every eval should be done with a nurse and a therapist together, combined. It's a combined assessment. It really is. And what this does is, and why we created it, is because we want all of our staff to understand all the different needs and all the things, because they don't always think of it. They don't always go, oh, duh, this patient lives alone, or this patient is in a wheelchair and doesn't have a ramp, or this patient, so there's a lot of things that don't get recognized and understood, and then that therapist or that nurse don't initiate orders for a social worker or a therapist or a nurse, and then the therapist can call the doctor and say, hey, it looks like you ordered just therapy, but sorry, this patient has, A, B, and C, and he can look right at that assessment tool and say the risk factors for this patient are high, and I recommend these things. And when our staff is having those conversations with the physicians, they're more likely to say, oh, okay, I get it. not just call and say, we would like nursing added to the order. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. You need to have a reason, and you need to know why you're asking for nursing, and that tool does that for us. And that's really why we implemented it. We really wanted all of our staff to understand all of the things that home health offers and how to assess their patient for those needs.
And that sounds wonderful. I want to clarify something I said. I can see in the questions, I apologize for my tackiness. HRA, Hospital Risk Assessment. I apologize for using the abbreviation there. A couple questions are coming in about your agency size and case mix as far as what is the average visits per patient for nurses and for all disciplines.
Oh, look at you asking difficult questions. No, not at all.
Moderator here, not the one asking.
No, that's totally fine. Our average agency size right now during the slow months, I want to say our daily average is about 250 patients. Prior to the summer, we were at about 320 average patient census. And you know, we continue to grow and strive. That's our goal. But as far as our case mix goes, you want to know what was the average?
Yeah, average about how many patients does each nurse see a day, the clinicians?
Oh, how many patients a nurse sees a day? It really depends. You know, we also have a psych program. So our psych nurses, we do a whole psychiatric program for our patients, and their visits tend to be a little bit longer, so they might do a little less. I would say their average is about 4 to 6 visits, depending on if they need to sneak in a start of care or something. And same, you know, our nurses, I would say our average nurses, their patients, you know, I would say the average for regular skilled nursing is probably 7 visits a day. I would say 6 or 7. They, you know, we have a few PRN. Sometimes they see 4, sometimes they see 5. You know, it really depends. But our full time, I would say 7 is a good number. And as we all know, Fridays are more like 10 because they're trying to get all the missed visits of the patients that decided to cancel last minute throughout the week. So then you have those.
Absolutely. I think everybody in home health understands that one. And if it's okay with you, let's go ahead and give those on the phone to have a chance to jump in here before we get to the top of the hour. And we're going to unmute all the lines now. So for those of you on the phone, be ready. We're going to start listening. For those of you on the phone, do you have any questions today for Brenda?
You know, Cindy, are you there?
Hi, yes. We are.
Oh, there you are. Okay. You know, I do see a question. It looks like Carol asked, it says, so when you discharge the patient, who do they call once you're out of their care? That Connect device will always answer as Southland. It will never answer as anything else once we discharge the patient. They will always answer Southland Care Connect, and that way that puts a little, I hate to say it, a little marketing tool out there for us. Because then our patients have that continuum of care so that when they do start feeling bad or they do know that they start needing a nurse or their doctor does mention it, they say, wait, I'll just call Southland. All I have to do is push my button at home. And they'll say, oh, okay, and then the patient will call and say, my doctor's asking that I need new home health. That button will call the doctor's office and tell them exactly what to do to get new orders over to us.
That's
so it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Woo! Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And what we'll go ahead and do now, I know there's many more questions that you all have out there, and out of respect for your time and Brenda's time, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up for today, but please continue to keep posting the questions, or you can send the questions directly to us at hhqi@wvmi.org, and we will be glad to get the questions to Brenda, and we'll get back to you with the responses, especially if there's been some in the chat that we haven't been able to get to today. Please feel free to contact us. So before we wrap up, I just want to mention a few things. As you've heard throughout the call, the new quarterly schedule for the CardioLand meeting, our next meeting is going to be on December 17th. Now, if you're coming to the October 3rd Thursday, remember every third Thursday, we're going to have something. The third Thursday in October is, just as Brenda and Misty have mentioned, the coordinating of veterans home health care. We all have veterans in our services, and they're throughout the country, and the numbers are increasing. And so working with the veterans and the VA systems within each state is sometimes challenging. And so that's going to be addressed on the underserved population call, which will be October 15th. The November 3rd Thursday is going to be the live chat, and a special thank you to all of you who were on the last live chat, and you participated so lively. It got to the point where it was difficult for those of us at HHQI to keep up with all the conversations going on, and we loved it. So I want to challenge you to keep going with that simultaneous conversations, and let's just make the most of that particular Thursday. And then that brings us up into December. So our next CardioLand meeting is going to actually be after Thanksgiving. Yes, Thanksgiving is only a few months away. So with that horrifying thought, or how close everything is, how quickly everything is going, we're going to wish you a happy holiday. And we do want to encourage you to continue your questions and your conversation about the topics that Brenda has presented today, and think outside the box of what can work for your patients. And that's our purpose of doing this. We'd like to hear from you and hear your input. And one last reminder that we do want to honor the home health aides and look at a blog of looking at the day in the life, basically, of a home health aide. So keep in mind your aides. If you have anyone that you would like us, we can interview, write the blog, or have you write the blog. We can help you write the blog. We just want to get the information out there that this is a group of people that really need to be addressed as far as how positive our lives and our patients' lives are because of them. So with that, we're going to encourage you to please stay in touch with us with any of the types of social media that you see there. And we'd like to thank all of you so much for your time and your participation today. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you so much. You too.